Okay, hi my friends. Welcome to a lovely Wednesday afternoon. We are in Bangkok, Thailand. The birds are chirping, the sun is setting. My crystal is reflecting rainbows all around the room. So recently, I decided to dedicate an entire week to do completely nothing. And I feel like that sounds really strange, and a lot of you guys might be wondering, why? And what did you even do? However, I actually think that it was a really valuable experience, which made me think a lot about the way in which our society conceives work, our attitudes towards productivity, and the way that leads us to make certain decisions in life, and whether that really leads to the fulfillment which we are truly searching for. So that is what this video is going to be about. And it's the first time I'm making this kind of philosophical discussion type video. So I would be happy to receive any feedback on like what more or less you guys want to hear about. And the set is also in progress. So I am taking ideas for improvements on this set as well. My microphone is also attached to a green coloring pencil. But anyways, without further ado, that is it for the intro, and we shall get started. So I think the first thing that we have to do is define what exactly we mean by nothing in this video. Since you guys are all very intelligent people, I'm sure you're all thinking that it is not in fact possible to do nothing. I had to at least breathe and blink and so on. And of course, I entirely agree with you. However, I'm sure that it has all happened to you before when you asked someone what they did and then they told you they did nothing. What I think, right, is when somebody says they did nothing, it basically kind of means that they didn't do anything which they thought was personally worthwhile. Like, for example, they didn't dedicate their time to working towards a particular goal. And also maybe they didn't do anything that they thought was worth mentioning to other people. Basically, it wasn't something that they valued or thought was worthwhile. So even the way that we define what nothing means to us is kind of an interesting thing to think about. There is a motorcycle. Motorcycle! So on my week of doing nothing, what I basically did was I woke up every morning and then I told myself, you have nothing to do. I didn't make any plans. I didn't give myself any obligations to do anything. It wasn't as if I prevented myself from doing things, but the main point was I was free to do anything I wanted, even if it wasn't useful. So I don't know if this is something strange, but I actually kind of had a fear of doing nothing. This fear basically had two parts to it, or two reasons behind it. The first one was I felt like doing nothing or staying still was a waste of my time. And I'm sure we have all heard the phrase that time is money. So by staying still, I felt like I was wasting my time, I was wasting my money, I was losing my youth because I was aging every single day. And I was losing opportunities and an infinite number of potential futures with every single moment that passed. That sounds very dramatic, but yes. Basically, I was concerned with the opportunity cost of doing nothing because I felt like basically everything was a better alternative to nothing. There is now a plane. Oh, to live in an urban area. Secondly, I felt a lot of guilt associated with choosing not to work hard or purposely choosing to stay idle and not really create anything of use, otherwise more commonly known as productivity guilt. I don't think it's a far-fetched statement or observation to say that our society in general views hard work as a virtue, and we really value people who work hard, and we really admire those who hustle, hustle culture. Things like, for example, spending all of your time on work to the point where you have to give up a lot of other things, working until 2 a.m. and not sleeping, working on weekends, instead of resting, answering calls at random times of the day, and just, giving up your life for your work. It's not really just about those actions itself, but I think that for the people who do those things, a lot of people feel a sense of pride and a sense of satisfaction associated with them. And I was also one of those people. I think these days being busy is almost seen as a status symbol. However, I think there's a dark side or toxicity to what some people call the cult of efficiency. And that's, of course, the increasing cases of workplace burnout. Apparently, stress and anxiety levels are also at an all-time high as people make sacrifices from, making time for themselves and their own well-being, spending time with loved ones, living a balanced lifestyle, taking care of their health, and instead just dedicate all of their time to working endless hours for whatever reason it is that they might have. At this point, I do think it's important to address that it is, of course, a privilege to do nothing. And even to have the choice, right, of doing nothing is a privilege in itself, because some people cannot afford to do nothing. Your socioeconomic background also shapes the relationship that you have with productivity. Quoting a TikTok therapist, Jeff Gunther, he says that people from privileged backgrounds, such as himself, may face some expectations from their parents to reach their level, whereas people from less privileged backgrounds might feel the economic need to work really hard in order to sustain themselves. Adding to that, Aaron Stech, a sociology professor from the University of Michigan, says that people from middle or working class backgrounds might feel a need to apply for the most competitive jobs in order to climb the socioeconomic ladder. Altogether, I do think the urge to work hard plagues everyone, no matter what your background is, although it may come from a different source and it may take on a slightly different shape or form. Part 3. Why we don't do nothing. So where do all of these fears or worries or anxieties relating to not working come from? And why do we often really overwork ourselves even when sometimes it's not necessary to? Or where has this general culture of overworking as a whole come from? The work that we create is often related to our worth as a human being. Aaron Stech also says that, and I quote, "The notion of productivity as a sense of self-worth is a social construct of our cultural space. There is a strong link between needing to not only be productive, but to show one is productive, and a sense of self-worth." So in other words, we work in order to feel better about ourselves, and also for other people to feel better and admire us. Of course, as well as that, the more the work that we create is in line with what society desires or values, the more handsomely we are rewarded, whether that be in terms of money or in terms of praise and acclaim. I find it interesting that Stech also points out that we not only have to be productive, but show to others that we are productive. And I find that this manifests itself very clearly in social media, such as in day in the life vlogs, but not just any day in the life vlogs, productive day in my life vlogs, or things like posting about our accomplishments on LinkedIn, which is behavior which has become totally normalized, encouraged, and even necessary in order to remain competitive in today's job market. Aside from that, I think it also enters our lives in more nuanced ways, such as through the That Girl hashtag on TikTok back in 2021, where girls took videos of themselves making green smoothies, eating acai bowls, making their beds, and also being productive. I too am also extremely guilty of both tying my worth to the work that I create, as well as feeling the need to display the fact that I work. However, I do not really think there's anything wrong with showing other people your work or showing people your productivity in itself, right? Because sometimes we even work for other people, and the work that we do is meant to be for other people to see. Also, showing other people that you are productive is a way to encourage other people to also be productive, or show a method of being productive, which can inspire others to work towards their own goals as well. I think it's only when you tie your self to the work that you produce, that it becomes worrying and makes it difficult for people to draw the line between what is enough work and what is too much work. In a video from the School of Life titled "Why We Should Feel Sorry for High Achievers," the narrator says something pretty interesting. They suggest that high achievers, or the people who society deem as basically the most productive, right, who are able to accomplish the most, are those that are in fact least able to feel that they can plainly be themselves without any sort of acclaim or distinction. Simply being is never enough. Their right to exist can only be assured by constant doing. Their frantic activity masks an underlying unquenchable doubt as to their acceptability. In other words, the people who really achieve the most are the same people who harbor the belief that they are what they achieve. And as a result, if they do nothing, they become nothing. Or at the very least, they don't have any evidence to suggest otherwise. It's kind of like how we as a society sometimes judge people or distill people down to a simple list of accomplishments on a piece of paper, otherwise known as a resume. As if we're saying that human beings are not really any much more than that. Anyways, the association of myself to my work was something that I wanted to tackle during this week of doing nothing. 4. Do nothing. Let me drink some water first. Okay, I hope that you guys are all still listening. The lighting is probably changing throughout this video because the sun is setting right now. And you can probably hear some birds as well. I really like the sound of this bird actually, if you can hear it in the background. Anyways, part 4, do nothing. My throat is also starting to hurt a bit from this talking. So prior to this week of doing nothing, I came across a Chinese philosophy and a concept within it called, respectively, Taoism and wu-wei. Taoism is an ancient Chinese philosophy which believes that humans should live in harmony with the Tao or the Wei. And wu-wei literally translates to inaction or non-action, otherwise known as doing nothing. This is one of the things that inspired me to take on this challenge, if I should call it a challenge. So according to Taoists, the cosmos unfolds itself spontaneously according to incessant fluctuations of the Tao or the Wei. Essentially, everything has a natural course of action, and for humans to live harmoniously with that, we should go with the flow, go along with the natural course of action, and that will lead to flourishing. I get relatively skeptical of these kinds of statements, but if I were to link it to science, I guess it's similar to the principle that entropy always increases. Taoists point out that human beings, through logical thought, language, culture, and government, often interfere with this natural course, forsaking spontaneity for artifice. The less natural something is, the more work we have to put in to achieve it. Consider the world's grandest monuments, such as the pyramids, high skyscrapers. They take the most work to build, and they are the least natural, but they are also the most impressive. Something which is in line with nature, for example, a hut, does not take that much work to build, but is also at the same time much less impressive. And as a whole, humans often seem to go for the more impressive option because we're very tied to and fixated on the ideals of grandiosity and success. These kinds of buildings or monuments are really symbols of human achievement and human capability, and they are designed to impress. I remind myself now of my philosophy lecturer in university. When repeating to myself that I had nothing to do, I found myself doing a lot of things which I might have dismissed as irrelevant or frivolous or a waste of my time, but perhaps were not actually. While on my week of doing nothing, I also came across a second concept called niksen. Niksen is a Dutch concept which literally means to do nothing, to be idle, or to do something without purpose. So basically any activity can be niksen if it does not have any use. In the Netherlands, where the concept is originally from, niksen is associated with being lazy. However, recently advocates of niksen have framed it in a different way, which is like a necessary component of living a healthy, balanced, and happy lifestyle. So by incorporating some kind of niksen into everyday life, such as, for example, going for a walk in the evening or taking a relaxing bath and allowing our minds to wander, it's supposed to help us, in fact, lead more useful lives. Niksen is believed to reduce one's stress and anxiety, improve physical health, and also boost creativity. A 2013 psychology study noted that allowing your mind to wander actually allowed people to gain clarity about the goals that they wanted to pursue, as well as the actions they wanted to take in order to pursue those goals. So I think these two concepts of doing nothing both bring something quite different to the table. Firstly, wu-wei advocates for doing nothing as a way to free ourselves from our human egos and the confines of what we think we should pursue for some certain reason. It allows us to not take the path of most resistance, as we often do, because we feel like, for some reason, that's the more respectable path. It also poses a question to the attitudes which we most often see in schools and in corporations, which is often very competitive and focused on setting goals and reaching them, often to the detriment of the health and physical well-being and happiness of workers and of students. Simultaneously, niksen points out that to be idle can actually be of use. So to summarize, wu-wei says that doing nothing is the best way to achieve something, and niksen says that to do something that is not useful is actually useful. It is going to probably be dark by the time I finish recording this. Okay, in summary, I'm going to be honest and say that it hasn't really taken me just a week, but almost an entire year to reach the conclusions that I'm talking about in this video with regards to my attitude towards work and myself. 1 year ago, I would not have done this for the fear that I would do nothing, whatever that meant to me at the time. I would have felt that I wouldn't be able to waste a whole 168 hours on being idle. And I held tightly onto some fixed beliefs of what I should be doing and what I thought was useful. And I'm going to read this out from what I wrote because I like the phrasing of it. So at this point, for me, as odd as it sounds, to purposely do nothing is both an act of triumph and rebellion against myself and my deep-rooted yet shallow beliefs. So, finally, I'm not going to draw any conclusions or give you any takeaways of what you should do about your life, because it's your life after all, and I don't know anything about it, right? However, I did want to end with some questions which I wanted us all to think about, and I hope that I have already raised throughout this video. What is it that you define as doing nothing, and why do you attribute that label to it? Would you ever intentionally do nothing? What is it that you are working so hard for? And lastly, in a world which always strives for more work, more efficiency, in a shorter amount of time and faster and better, should we do nothing? And how can we do nothing? Thank you so much for listening, and that is it for what I have today. Please do share your thoughts in the comment box below. Feel free to subscribe, as I will be back with a new video next week. And like I said, the sun is setting. See you guys.